the list just keeps on growing of things you can't do while being black in this country. Comedian D.L. Hughley has written a survival guide that America needs right now. It's called How Not to Get Shot. Believe me, it's really funny. Please welcome D.L. Hughley. So I didn't read the full title to you. It's called How Not to Get Shot and Other Advice from White People. So let's talk about the book. Because it's social commentary on what's happening to black folks in America. And you talk about advice that white people have given on how not to get shot, like don't break the law and comply with police orders. What are we not hearing? What are we not getting that you had to write the book?
Here's the thing. The most dangerous place for black people to live is in white people's imagination. When you look at the fact, honestly, you can have just shot up 17 people, and the police will arrest you. They know you have a gun, but they'll shoot the kid they thought had one. They'll shoot him in the back. And here's the thing, it's just, we live in an America right now where we've evolved. We believe that a man can be a woman trapped in a woman's body, a woman can be a man trapped, but we inherently believe that black people are criminal. We can accept that you are a man trapped in a woman's body, but we don't, for some reason, we can't buy the notion that all black people aren't inherently criminal. And that's, it really, and then we don't, like for every time something happens, they'll say, these dualities can't exist. You can't tell us we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, but then okay you being murdered because he said you were guilty, the cop said you were guilty. They didn't try you.
Before they tried
And the truth of the matter, America's never, there have been 200 race riots in America, primarily because black people or people of color have been killed by the police, but nobody being brought to account. That was before there was black on black crime. So what was it then? We've been murdered for reading, for looking somebody in the eye, for whistling at somebody. The murder of black people at the hands of people of authority has always happened. And police are doing what they've always done, which is, the police for us have never been about protecting and serving. It's keeping you in your community where you belong and keeping you out of places you don't. That's just how it's.
You know, there are some good officers out there, a lot.
Nobody needs to say that, because we already know it.
We know that.
But let me make this distinction. The same officers that patrol communities of wealth aren't the same ones that control communities of color. They're not the same officers.
That is true. That is true. There's something in this book for everyone. I thought it was funny. I loved it. You also dedicated it to your son, Kyle. Why?
Because my son is a young black man who has Asperger's syndrome. So you're more likely, the people who get shot the most by police are people who are mentally or emotionally disturbed. And you're going to take my son away because he didn't understand something? That seemed to be, you know, to me, everybody's always saying we need to have a conversation. Well, this is my entree into the conversation.
What do you tell him about the police?
I tell him to be respectful. And I tell him, if he doesn't understand what they're saying, officer, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. Call my father.
Okay.
Yo, you grew up in L.A. in a predominantly black community.
No, not predominantly, all black people.
In all black communities. But what was your experience like with the police back then?
My first experience with the police, I was 8 years old on 135th and Avalon. I was a kid. I didn't know right from wrong. I was a kid growing up. Like, all I knew about police was 1 out of them 12. I didn't know. So I'm walking down the street, me and my best friend, and the police screech up to us, and they go, "Where's such and such?" And we go, "We don't know. We just..." They said, "Put your hands on the car." So we put our hands on the car, and the cars ran hot back then. I said, "Officer, this is hot." He said, he said, "N-word, if you take your hand off this car, I'm gonna blow your head off." That is my first introduction. And then 2 weeks ago, I see a black kid in Chicago who gets handcuffed and he pees on himself.
Yes.
And I said, I'm 50 years ago, and thousands of miles away, the kid's gonna have the same kind of introduction to the police that I do. And it made me sad.
What do you think the issue is? I mean, because certainly none of us can change who we are and what we look like. But if you get shot because you're driving in your car and you think you can smoke your cigarette in your car, or you get shot because someone thinks you're being disrespectful. I've heard people say to you, well, if people just wouldn't break the law,
then we wouldn't need policemen, right? We wouldn't need judges, we wouldn't need juries.
Yeah.
You just, listen, we're human beings. We make mistakes. One of the words that they use for black communities all the time is accountability. How come that word doesn't work both ways? I think if you make a mistake,
you have to be accountable.
They don't care. If you, and oftentimes it's preventable. So take for instance the shooting that just happened in Pittsburgh. That officer had been fired in January because he was brutal and a liar. He was hired by Pittsburgh. 90 minutes later, he murdered a kid, shot him in the back. 90 minutes later, after being sworn in. Yeah. The same type of police officers that they have in the communities of wealth, they do. Like when communities of privilege, they get the Army Corps of Engineers. We get the Marines. And you can, no one is more respectful. No one teaches their children about policemen more. We talk to our children like they're going outside to talk to a wild animal.
Isn't that the truth?
So we can't. And if it's not black, and there are ways that we do things. If you are white and you're on opiates, that's a crisis. If you're black and you're on crack, that's a crime. So if you can't, I'm as human as you are. I love my woman, I love my children, I love my family. I don't want them to die. If something happens and they listen, if my son did something, the police wouldn't have to come get him. I'd take him there.
I want to ask you about some hot topics. And earlier we were talking about the Puerto Rican woman who was berated with a police officer just standing by. We talked about the Mexican man, 92 years old, was hit with a brick. I know you beaten with a brick. I know you know about the situation that happened to my friends and I when we were on vacation recently. The N-word was yelled at us. Why do some people today feel emboldened to do this? What do you think?
Well, I think we have a whole climate of it. Listen, well, you can't, let's not pretend like we don't know what we know. The very scriptures that they use to put us in chains, they use to put children in cages. So and you can't, in California, you couldn't treat chickens like that. We have cage-free chickens.
Yes.
You couldn't do that. But we live in a society. We live in a society that where when somebody can call the police on you for barbecuing or going to Airbnb or falling asleep, it is because they want a result. It is because they want a result. And this whole book was about me saying, I know that what I do is make people laugh at reality. And I just want people to treat, we are humans. That's it.
But the fact that we have to keep, we have had to say this.
But we never said it in a joke, though. So it's maybe they'll get. But it's just
maybe they'll get it now.
They get so angry. Like if you want to start a fight with somebody, say fair. Just fair. Just treat me fairly. You could not treat people like this if you didn't believe they were inferior to you. There's no way you could do it.
I have a question about another hot topic. The new NFL season is right around the corner, and some people have been quite vocal about wanting to leave the politics out of football. And you say, quote, white people want us to leave sports on the field, but leave race off of it.
Well, you know what's funny? When people say we should leave politics out of sports, you forget that they hired Rush Limbaugh to be an announcer for football. And Dennis Miller, who's very political, to be an announcer for football. What they want is for black people to shut up and play. And I'll say this. It makes sense for these athletes, football players, the very physical attributes that get you drafted in the NFL, get you killed when you're off that field. If you're big, you're big, you're back, you're fast, you're strong.
Let me ask you one more quick thing. Should everyone take a look at the second stanza?
Or the third stanza,
The third stanza of the national anthem.
Well, it wasn't that. Well, obviously it was a poem. Let's just suffice it to say, there are no poems or songs from the 1800s black people gonna like. There's not. But what you can't do is scrape racism off. A poem or words that were telling you how they want to murder us and then honor us on the field of play. You can't do that.
Take a look at just everybody, you know, black, white, orange, pink, yellow, whoever you are. Take a look at this stanza. I think you'd be as surprised as most people were. You know what? Thank you, DL. You just have to keep coming back. How not to get shot and other advice from white people is available now. And you know what, y'all? Do you know what, y'all? Do you know?